Okay, so say you're working on the gender of your voice and you're trying to figure out like what the target is. Like, do you want it to sound like super femme, maybe more butch? How do you figure that out? Hey, my name is Claire at the Seattle Voice Lab, and we're going to talk about two ways to kind of discover this. The first one is more subjective, and the other one is more objective. So let's talk about the objective side first, because there are three things we want to just consider: age, experience, and profession. Age is really simple. If you're older, probably a more lower, mature sounding voice is better for you in the long run. If you are younger, a higher, brighter, thinner sound is probably more important for you, with a lot of inflection, a lot of diction, that kind of stuff. If you are working, say, for example, as a lawyer versus, say, a fisherman, right? It is much, much more important in a lawyer setting that you consider a lower voice, something with a lot of diction, something that has a little more of a commanding tone. If you're a fisherman, volume and attention-seeking kind of voices are so much more important. And experience, if you're just generally hanging out with your friends more, having a more flowy kind of excited voice is much, much more important. Or if you're like me, whose job is TikTok teaching and delegating to my coworkers, then it's very, very important that you have a more subdued and tighter voice, so that way the information gets across clearly. So those are a couple ways that you can do it in a much more objective-based approach. But what about the subject? So the cool thing about voice training is you can make your voice sound like whatever you want it to sound like, with some exceptions. But in general, you have a lot of creative freedom. So recognize that the best way for you to start learning what your target sound is to record yourself and exaggerate. I cannot stress this enough. Exaggerate. Whether it's high pitches, low pitches, exaggerate these things, because this will give you it'll give you the sweet spot. You will know if something is too far because your ears will hear it, right? For example, I don't know, I think a voice like this is way too high for me. I don't care for this kind of voice. It doesn't fit with my being. That's how I feel, at least. You might think otherwise. But for me, personally, this voice does not work. I know that because I've spent a long time exploring different voices. I like this voice. I like a little vocal fret on my voice. I like a little bit of a deeper voice to the way I speak. I know this by exploring and getting outside of my comfort zone. Exaggerate. You have to be willing to make a fool of yourself to know what it is that makes you feel comfortable. I'm Claire at Seattle Voice Lab. I hope this one helps. Lessons at seattlevoicelab.com. We got openings.